Let's just give a big welcome to Paulogia. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. Thanks so much. I usually people see me as that cartoon guy you just saw, so I'm sorry if this disappoints anyone, but we're not VTubing here tonight. We're doing the real face thing.
I love that you do that though. Your response is, and for those of you, like if you've been living under a rock in the atheist community, for those of you who don't know, Paulogia is most known for response videos on his channel, which we'll link to later on, in which he has absolutely no problem taking on the claims and beliefs of Christian YouTubers and of goodness to high academics and letting him know what he thinks about it. So, Paul, I got to ask you, what made you choose the response video as your weapon of choice?
The primary reason, I think it was because I was mostly inspired as I was coming out of Christianity by response channels like Logic and like Arn Ra and other channels similar to that. Even to some extent like Thunderfoot and some of those, that seemed to be the format that was, when I was in 2016 or so considering starting a channel. It didn't start till 2017. But the other thing I really liked about it was Christianity. And for those who don't know, I'm a former Christian. And so I even went to Bible school and that kind of thing. So my expertise is in the Christian area, but I know from that you can never speak for all Christians, right? I can never say, well, I'm going to respond to this thing that all Christians believe, because there's literally no such thing, right? So one thing that I like about the response format was it prevented that argument that I often saw, that you're just talking to a straw man. No one thinks the thing, like if I said that people are sent to hell because they don't accept the gift of free life, right? People say, well, you're straw manning. You didn't express that exactly the way I believe it, so I don't have to listen to what your response is. But when I do a response video, I'm actually getting the words of at least one Christian. So I'm responding to at least one Christian who believes the words there. And so that has saved me a lot from people dismissing me because I'm trying to express ideas that they don't hold. And we do, whether on purpose or not, it's always very hard to properly express another person's ideas. That's one of the things. So that, of course, active listening, you can kind of get to that. But when you don't have the person in front of you, it's best to just use their words. So that's partially why. Also, I have a background in editing. And so for me, it's a lot more comfortable to be able to, craft the responses and possibly even sometimes I like to improve their video, right? I like to, if they're kind of all over the place in their organization, sometimes I even like to reorganize what they did so that it can go into silos of more coherence, or at least
like, here, let me touch up that sermon for you, right?
Oh man, the number of times I've fixed the sound off of someone else's video as well. But yeah.
Now you're being a little humble here when you say something like background in editing, because one of the things that you did most recently was what's the best way to describe it? A rendition of Star Wars Episode 4 done entirely by clips that are not from Star Wars.
Right. So I think people who've been watching it have come up with the phrase recreation, and that's probably the best way to say it. A lot of people will be familiar with Ricky Gervais, and I believe he was the originator. And if he's not, forgive me if he's not the first to say it, but he said something along the lines of, if every science book was eliminated today, in a few thousand years, we would have all the science books back, right? We would relearn everything. But if you eliminate every religious holy book in the world, none of those would get recreated. And I think that was what J. Warren Wallace, for those of you who don't know, J. Warren Wallace is a Christian apologist, best known as the cold case detective. He has a new book coming out that it basically is trying to say that you could if all the Bibles in the world were eliminated, you could recreate them from people who have read the Bible and been inspired by it. And so therefore something. Therefore God exists. I don't know. Therefore what? But I got annoyed with his book tour. And so I said, well, you know what? You could also recreate Star Wars without Star Wars. And it turns out, that was a little idea I had. Turns out that's not as easy as it looks. So I spent a good couple weeks just researching clips and downloading clips and finding every single line to try and put the whole movie together. But that's what I did because I'm stubborn and I wanted to prove a point. I still don't know exactly what the point is. So you can recreate the Bible from Bible fan material, like, paintings. You can recreate Star Wars from fan materials. What does that prove about anything? I don't know.
I think it's more the idea that since there's stuff in the Bible that's reliable history, then for the stuff that we don't have other sources for. And well, you're famous for this too, because you've made a lot of people angry with "For the Bible tells me so."
Right. That is
so since you can rely on the Bible for other stuff that's verified, you can rely on it also for the stuff that you only find in there. I don't know. I don't personally believe that. I think every claim needs to be investigated individually. But it's just your masterwork of these is incredible, and it's for a typical half-hour video. Just out of curiosity, how much is going to go into it? How much actual behind-the-scenes work?
On average, I've spent an hour for every minute that my video is.
Wow. Okay.
If you count the research and the the scripting and the recording and then the later animation and adding blinking and adjusting all the sound and all that kind of stuff. So like a 12-minute video, I will spend 12 hours on. If it's a 40-minute video like the one that I recently posted, it's probably closer to a full week's of full-time work. And it's not my full-time job, so that's weird.
No, I've attempted to make response videos, and I've attempted to make videos of the video games that I play to make it palatable in YouTube form. And there's so much more that goes into it. That sounds about right. An hour for every minute. So what is it? About this time last year when we were all COVIDed, my wife's handbell choir at church decided we still want to play music, but we have to, there's no way we can get everybody together at the same place. Everybody had to record their individual bit one by one.
Oh yeah.
Then we got the video files, and then that's not it, because now we still have to balance the audio, and we have to sync everything. And everybody has slightly different rhythms. Some people play a little late on the beat, some people play a little early. So we have to make these little tiny micro edits to line everything up. So for a 2-minute video, I think for the first one we did took about 6 hours worth of work, and that's not counting when they were recording.
That doesn't surprise me at all. Yeah, no, editing is a tedious task, but it's one I find joy in. It's actually my favorite part of the process, which is really weird.
And it's not just that too, because you have created an avatar for yourself, which, as you said, is probably, people, there are a lot of people who will know you for that a lot more than would be able to recognize you by your face.
Right.
The ones who watched this video. Did you create this avatar just for your channel, or has this been something you just do?
I have been doing silly scribbles on paper since I was a tiny little kid, including, I was discussing this with my mother during church time. We would always sit in the same place in the church, in our Mennonite church, where we sat, and that was sort of almost assigned seating, right? So I had pencils, and I eventually had made an animated flip book in the corner of the hymnal in front of me, because every week I was in the same spot, right? So I could do a couple drawings each week until I eventually had a whole flip book. And when my mother discovered that, I made me take the hymnal home with an eraser and erase every single page.
No.
That's her biggest regret in life, I think, is that she made me do that, because I was, I had made this little artistic thing. All that said, the question was, the avatar was, I'm okay saying now, I didn't talk about it back then, but I was still, I still had cancer at the time, and I was still quite sick looking. And I knew that the things I wanted to say were going to be, it was going to be distracting to have that stuff coming from an unhealthy face. YouTube is a very highly visual medium, and it sucks. It shouldn't matter what the person looks like who's saying a thing, but I know in reality that it did. And I think I've gotten over that. Like, I'm less concerned with that now. I just deal with, this is the best I can be and whatever. But at the time, I kind of felt like it was going to be a way to present my message in a way that was less distracting. So that's how it started. I had no idea I was ever going to have guests. That was a accident. And then it became a whole thing. I don't know if anyone's watched my channel, but every time I have a guest on now, I have to like draw them, and I'm not a very good drawer. Like, honestly, I'm not. And so I have to make it look like the person as best I can without insulting the person, and then rig their faces for animation. So I'm good at making things hard on myself, is maybe the best way to say it. But that's sort of the story of the cartoon, and I'm so well known for it now that I can't really go away from it. I know there's people that just want to be on my channel just so they can be a cartoon.
Yeah, it's a rite of passage for atheist YouTubers. You know,
So,
you're not really an atheist YouTuber until you have been commemorated as an avatar on Paulogia's channel. You do the mouth animations by hand, or is there?
It's an algorithm that I developed in After Effects that's essentially puppetry.
Okay.
So I don't have to. I don't hand do every frame, but I have to, basically every time I do a new character, if anyone's done an animation, I basically have to create a new rig, right? Of what the range of sounds might be, and so I don't know. It's more work than
no,
it
I've
should
just been. I think one thing that a lot of people don't understand enough is you have you and me up here on the air, and we're doing our thing, but this is the tip of the iceberg as far as what's necessary for the creation, right? Never mind the scheduling and the ideas. There's people behind the scenes, and we'll say hi to crew later. You guys are the heart of the show, and so what they see, the final product represents only such a tiny chunk of all the work that has to go into it.
But here's the thing, though. But here's the thing. So just if you want to start a YouTube channel, anyone listening to this, that is not the bar, though. Like the bar is not so you have how to do editing, or how to do any of that stuff. The bar is I have a thought in my head and I have a phone, right? And I think TikTok has kind of shown that. I mean, we're getting away from the production value stuff, while important, is not the most important. And I really would hate to think that we are not getting voices because they feel like there's some kind of technical bar that they need to meet. Like that's gone.
Yeah. No, I can think of, and I think you can too. Like the first name that comes to mind is Exmo Lex, who built her entire platform on an iPhone from the back of her van.
Yeah,
like that's like the first 2 years of her channel, and so you don't need that much. You need something to say and a way to say it, and then the courage to push send.
Exactly, so. and you just get better in your storytelling. The only way to get better at telling stories to a camera is to tell stories to a camera. There's no shortcut that isn't that.
So. Oh, that's so hard for me even now. Like if a lot of people don't know what this screen looks like for me, but if I were to want to look you in the eye and talk to you, this is what it looks like.
Right.
But I can't do that because I have to look here. And it feels still insensitive to you because it's like I'm not making eye contact.
Right.
But these are the little things, and I'm still learning after doing this for a year. The things that you're still learning how to do. If anybody is looking at us and looking at like we're polished professionals at this, absolutely not. I've done like only.
Well, also you need better taste because we are clearly not.
No. Okay.
Anyway, but I also need to mention Conor McGregor's shirt.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so people know when I do these shows, I've always worn just a plain single color shirt because I just don't like to make too much of a statement. But you know what? The time for that is over. Yeah, Paul, I almost dressed up as you for tonight's show, just plain black. And you are known for your plain black. Like, what's your avatar? Plain black shirt, right?
Yeah.
And I can't think of very many appearances you've had where you had
you go in my closet. There aren't any other colors, so.
No, but I was on Secular Sexuality plug with Erica Gutstick Gibbon. I'm sure you know who that is. And I wanted to wear the nerdiest possible shirt that I had. So I got a shirt from the Taylor Swift music video, the one with the periodic table of elements on it. And I was like, okay, I can do this. I can wear something that is specific to every guest. Even though you're not there anymore, because you've actually, this is how well I know your content. You've actually had some frames of Connor McDavid on one of your.
Oh, videos, yeah, for sure. I've been an Oiler fan forever. Well, not forever, since 1979 when they started in the league. And that also tells you that I'm older than that. But no, I mean, I live and die with the Oilers, and mostly, you know, for the last 30 years, that's been dying. But no, Connor's my guy, and I'm very excited that we're going to the Olympics. NHL players are going to the Olympics, so
Yes, they are.
Connor can actually win something, which is great. I'm sorry,
Oh,
US, but the Canada team is going to get you.
the Canada teams need more representation. I was so happy to see
I mean,
Montreal.
Austin
in there,
Matthews
but
is playing for the American team, so that's still good.
yeah, I don't understand how we can go on about how the Oilers had 4 number 1 draft picks in 6 years and still haven't turned it into a playoff
Yeah,
series win.
that's just the sad tale, and I don't have enough to drink.
Yeah, but that's sports ball, and most of the atheist audience doesn't. No,
No.
but one of the clips that impressed me most, and it was a clip that was probably only 30 seconds, but I have to imagine this took years. Is you had a clip where 9 someones were all describing the same example of how if somebody has a dream, they can't describe it to someone else, and to have watched that many apologist videos to know where to find every single one of these clips, that took hours. That took dedication. So for a clip that lasted maybe 30 seconds, that I give you a tremendous amount of respect for having put that clip together.
Well, usually I'm only that stubborn. Not always, but usually when I'm that stubborn, it's to make a point. And it literally was because they were all pretending to be off the cuff, coming up with this, oh, let me think off the top of my head of this example of how, you know, how shared dreams don't work. And literally they all said, well, what if I'm sitting in bed with my wife and I dream that I've gone to Hawaii? I can't wake up and say, honey, come and join me in the dream. And it was like, yeah, as you said, it was like 6 or 7 different apologists telling the exact same story, almost at the same speed. You know, I had to have a few drop in here for length of story, but I think, as you know, as you and I have discussed before, apologists don't have a lot new to say, so they should at least have their own examples. I don't know who the originator was, but they've all copied from each other.
No, and one of the first videos that I watched of you, and this is how like I became completely enamored by your the way you present is when you compared Eric Hoven's presentations with his father's presentations with very little difference in between, and you would show them either like simultaneously or one immediately after the other to show there's not a lot of difference between how this content went on.
Yeah, no, Eric likes to you know, he's a if those who don't know, Kent Hovind is a young earth creationist, and his son Eric Hovind also has a young earth creation ministry. And Eric is more cognizant of his reputation in the world, shall we say, and his production value. But despite that slickness, he's really just using his dad's slides. and when it like, so I really wish he would spend less time on the aged hardwood behind him, you know, and more time on, well, can we have a new idea? Would be great. So.
Well, see, this is another reason why, you know, why I love the idea of response videos, because there are some people who are very big fans of these people. You know, you've come up with a few names. We can think of others like Frank Turek or Greg Kokel, who will search for their material and then they'll see you. Right. They'll see your response to it, because these are not nobody. These are people with hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views. And if you combine them all, probably millions of followers. And for you to respond to that, they're seeing a direct response to something that their figurehead is saying.
Right. For those who don't know, and there's no reason you should, but when I left Christianity, I left most of my family behind. Like my family, we have great relationships, and that's healed over years. It wasn't easy at first, but most of the people that I love most in the world are still Christians and are still heavily influenced by the people I respond to. And that is, for me, the measure of who I wanted to respond to was who is influencing the lives of the people whom I love. And so there's a lot of great Christian YouTube channels. A lot might be a stretch. There's a bunch of popular Christian YouTube channels, but the people who are influencing those that I love are the ones like William Lane Craig and Ken Ham, and like it's no coincidence that the popular ones have the most influence. And so, you know, a lot of people say, well, why don't you talk about Thomas Aquinas? Because he has the best ideas, right? Well, it's like, well, I'm not here to, I want to be able to make sure that what I believe stands up to the best possible scrutiny. But when it comes to my channel, I want to talk about the things that are influencing people and not have some weird philosophical discussion that isn't a part of anyone's day-to-day life. So that kind of drove me to then, okay, well, I have to actually be good enough in my arguments to address the most popular people, like the Frank Turek's and the William Lane Craigs and you know, J. Warren Wallace's and Lee Strobel's, like other people who are selling millions of copies of books. They're not dumb, right? They have wrong ideas, but they're smart people. So that's a little bit daunting. And so people who follow my channel may know that I kind of started more with the young earth creationist stuff because I think that's more straightforward as to why they're wrong. But eventually I just had to get my theology out. And I've been fortunate to have a lot of them respond back. So,
well, you know what? You do mention that you have no problem going to toe with the big popular names out there, people who are PhDs and experts in their field. You have no problem doing that. That's a fascinating thing.